Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jaguar, and this is my playbook trade for January 21st of 2020. And today we're going to discuss an opening drive trade that I put on this morning. Here we're looking at the 5-minute chart. This is a day session, and we're looking at yesterday's price action, which was MLK Day. It was also Monday, and we only put in about 30,000 contracts here yesterday. And here's Friday's price action as well. Both of these are kind of pertinent to what we're discussed today. The market was opening here at my crosshair right here at 33.1650 is where we opened, and during the overnight session we actually had a sell-off. There was some negative news out of China, and a lot of times what's been happening is if we have negative news overnight, the US session is coming back in and we're buying it back up after that negative news, so we're discounting the news. So that's been happening relatively frequently. And what is my criteria for getting into an opening drive trade is contextually it needs to be either opening in a gap or opening toward the edge of the prior day's range. So if we were, I don't want to use yesterday, let's imagine that yesterday's not there, that these 30,000 contracts are not there. On Friday, if we were opening right here toward the top of the range, I would consider getting into opening drive if it presented itself. If we were opening here at the bottom of the range, I'd consider that, or if we're gapping up or down. But if we're opening here in the center toward the VPOC or overlapping VWAP or whatever, even if there's an open drive that occurs, I'm not trying to get into that because there's a little bit more traffic there than I want to contend with. So I'm really looking for gaps most of the time when I'm considering trading an opening drive. And more often than not, I'm willing to trade that from both sides. So we could be gapping down, but I still might trade an open drive up, and vice versa. It really just depends on how wide the gap is and just, overall what I'm feeling on the context of the day. So like I said, we had the China news in this situation. So it was one of those days that I could kind of anticipate the market having a more significant move. So we opened up here at 1650, and let's go ahead and watch the video. So here's the market opening up right here. I could pretty much tell we're about 10 seconds in the session right here, and I pretty much could tell, not quite yet, but right about here, I'm starting to tell this is likely to shape up to be an opening drive. That's pretty fast to get to 10,000 contracts. Again, let me try to full screen this. You can see down here if you look real hard. Sorry, my buttons are in the way, but it's 9:30, right? So the market's only been open for a few seconds. This is about 25 or 30 seconds in, and we're putting a pretty decent amount of volume here. So so we're already almost at that 2,500 threshold, which we've discussed in some prior videos, but let's go over that right now. My entry criteria for this trade to execute is on this first 25,000 volume bar. So what we're looking at here is 25,000 volume bars on the footprint. And over those first 25,000 contracts, I'm looking for at least 10% to be one-sided in the delta. So I'm looking for a plus 2,500 or a negative 2,500 delta for me to consider this being an open drive move. There's times where that doesn't happen and I still think it's an open drive. I'm just not trading that. So this is my trade setup for executing this trade. So this bar is about to finish up, and where do I want to enter at on this trade? So there's really two ways that I could get into this trade, and one of those being on a tick back, or that's just what I call it. I'd say a tick back. So sometimes when this bar first forms, and I'm not sure why, because 25,000 is pretty arbitrary. It's not like necessarily the market tends to tick back right after 25,000 contracts, but I always try to enact a little bit of patience, because every once in a while you'll see this just drop to VWAP and then continue. So if you're looking at a 5-minute bar, we've only put in 1 minute in the market thus far. So maybe about a minute and a half. So if you were looking at a 5-minute chart or something, you really wouldn't know what was going on here. but sometimes you'll see that quick drop back into VWAP. And even where this imbalance here is, a lot of times we'll go and correct some of those imbalances. But if the bar extends beyond the high of this bar, I want to be in. So I'm not really waiting too patiently to come back and get filled. If I don't have the opportunity to get in, I want to just, buy at the market right here at the top of this bar. So you'll see right here, I get in right there at the top of the bar. We barely got a check back on this bar. So I got in basically at the high of the previous bar. And that's pretty ideal for me. That's what I want to do during this trade. So I actually am about to have some account information come on the screen, so I'm gonna skip ahead here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see here, we've actually took out my first initial target relatively easily. Just taking a 10 tick target, which is my mechanical scale out for this trade. When I say mechanical, I mean just in that I take a scale out of 8 to 12 ticks. And I base that relatively on volatility. So a lot of the times when I'm trading this type of setup, I'm looking for a 10 tick scale out. Contextually, this fit pretty well because you could see we're brushing up here against the VPOC of the prior day. Now there was only 30,000 contracts that went in yesterday, so it's not like I'm taking this as with too much. This isn't a very large consideration in my mind here, but I did get that scale out. I took zero heat on this trade. It just went right to my scale out. So it was a very easy trade to manage in that sense. And you can see we are actually making a high volume node here at the VPOC of the prior day. So it is relevant. It's also relevant from some prior days. So contextually, this was a good first target. But as I'm trying to explain, I actually just take that as a predetermined scale out. So let me talk about my second target here first before I get too ahead of myself. So my second target, I moved up here to 28.75, and the reason for that is because I was looking at Friday's range and I was looking to get filled, somewhere in between all these VPOCs here that was at the high, because I'm kind of thinking of Friday as a possible weak high situation. We actually put in a lot of volume on the highs of Friday, and you could see we traded across these highs pretty significantly. So I figured if we got beyond the point of yesterday's VPOC, that we probably would extend up into Friday's range, because I don't think the market's taking too much consideration of what happened here yesterday. So that was my target here. And a lot of times you'll see in these opening drive trades, if you could catch the market at the right time, the market might just trend from 9:30 to 11:30. So a lot of times I will try to keep these trades on for a very long time. This is a trade that I sit in longer than any other trade that I take, because if you guys have been watching my videos, you know that I'm pretty scalpy for the most part. But in this trade, I really try to sit in there and let it work for those extended targets, because sometimes that opportunity is there. So unfortunately, I'm going to fast forward here a little bit, and I thought we were going to hold here on VWAP, and I'm kind of foreshadowing because I'm saying unfortunately, but I thought we were going to hold here on VWAP, and what happened is we came back down into this area, and where I was looking to exit this trade, although my stop loss is here, I told you guys before, I have a automated trade management that puts a stop loss here in the market, but a lot of times I'm thinking of my stop loss mentally as I'm trading. And I'm looking for, most situations, I'm looking to take less than an 8 tick stop in the ES. So I'm really trying to get in there on those one-sided moves. And here I only wanted to protect my order down to this next high volume node. So as we got, here to, 33.19, that was really where I was considering getting out. Below the VPOC of the first bar, if we completely retrace this bar that I entered on, I was thinking, possibly the movement has, run its course, or possibly sellers have just became, that strong that they've reversed the move. So, I'm not looking to, hold in there for the day's lows, and you can see why. In a second, I'll show you guys why I'm saying that. So let's fast forward here a little bit, and you can see we're coming back and we're retesting here at these lows. I mean, here at my entry, excuse me. And as we go and we test this peak here, I actually get out soon after this, I believe. Yep. So overall, I was holding this trade about 9 minutes, but I was willing to hold this trade for an hour if I needed to. It really, the time doesn't matter to me too much. But I just didn't really want to see us get down to here. So I exited this trade, and let's take a look here at the action of today to finish this up real quick. And we can see that, so I was actually here on this first candle, so this is 5 minute bars. So I'm here on this first candle that I've entered in, and I've got my scale out also in this first candle. So in the first 5 minutes a day, I've already done all this. In fact, this entire trade was just these first 2 bars. But you can see here, we went down to 18 on this initial portion. I mean, on this initial pullback, I should say. And my original stop was 1850. And that was my 8-tick stop that I put out there from my trade strategy. So even if I kept that in, I would have got stopped out. If I gave it 10 ticks, which was 1-to-1 with my scale out, I still would have got stopped out at 18. So this was really not a trade that I wanted to let go against me. Also, you can see by the price action of today, I said I wanted to get filled somewhere between 28 and 29, and I definitely would have had the opportunity to do that, but I would have had to hold my stop below today's low. And on this trade, I haven't had enough data to support that I should be doing that, and that's just not something that I want to do, especially as you can see, we attempted to move higher again here, and then we pulled back down to 17. So we even made a lower low on this next attempt. We made a lower high and a lower low relative to this low and this high. So overall, I think I did the right thing today. I'm even happy with my targets that I initially had, because since we traded there, I believe that was a high quality target. I think we just really got caught up in the the minutia or the chop here earlier on in the market. But that's my playbook trade for today. It ended up being just a slight winner, a small scratch type of trade, but that was what I took out today, and hopefully you guys learned something today. I definitely did, and I'll talk to you later.